So let's kick things off. If this is your first time joining us for a webinar, welcome. We're glad that you joined us. If it's not your first time, welcome back. We are going to be talking about what goes beyond typing. So typing.com, we're obviously known for the typing aspect of things, but today we're going to dive into beyond typing and how we have that section and can help prepare students for digital fluency, media literacy, testing success, and a whole bunch more. Really, we have evolved far beyond just keyboarding. It includes digital citizenship, AI literacy, creative writing, coding, more, all designed to help meet state mandates, which we will really get into and dive into. But before we get too far along, let me introduce who is on the webinar and presenting with me today. So myself, I lead part of our sales efforts in the West, and I am joined by Molly, who is our curriculum specialist. I want to give a quick hello.
Hey, everybody.
We've got Adrian representing our product team.
Hello.
And if we're lucky, we will get a guest appearance and cameo by Brent, who leads the tech development and our dev team.
Hey guys, welcome.
Cool. So what we are going to go over today, I mentioned we'll be going into the beyond typing section. Before that, we will kind of cover our why we have this section, what the kind of point is. And then Molly will take us through some of the standards alignment. Molly and I will both kind of go into the beyond typing curricula, which will be kind of the meat of today's presentation to really see what's in there beyond just the kind of fundamental keyboarding skills. And then we will cover some of the other features that are included on the platform, especially with a Plus upgrade that really gives you more access and can really help take the typing.com platform to the next level. And then we'll kind of keeping an eye on time. If we have some time before leaving time for questions and answers, Adrian will take us through some of the newer features on the product side. So without further ado, let's jump into that first section and kind of want to know what's your why, as well as explain what our why is. So I want to give people a second here. Put it in the chat if you don't mind. Kind of what brought you here today, what your why is, and specifically with a frame on beyond typing. We'll monitor that chat. I'll also mention at this time, if you do have questions throughout the webinar, please do not hesitate to ask them. You can use the chat, you can use the actual Q&A feature. That makes it a little bit easier for us to keep track. Don't feel that you have to wait until the very end of the webinar. We have a good number of participants, but not a huge number of attendees, so it's fairly manageable and would love to address those questions throughout. In fact, seeing one already, maybe Marcy, it looks like you have a question right off the bat. And I don't know if we can actually. Go for it, Marcy. So I don't know if you had a question. I did give the kind of allowed to talk if you wanted to unmute yourself and ask. Otherwise.
No question. Was just typing my why.
Oh, got it. Testing things out. Okay. We appreciate the participation, though. So thank you for leading by example and how to dive right in whenever you have a question. I appreciate that. Okay, a little bit about our why. So we know that, I mentioned that we started as a way to teach typing, but today really are kind of the starting point into preparing students to thrive in a digital world. Students learn on keyboards, but digital fluency we know goes just far beyond that, beyond words per minute and just typing fluency. These skills that really are important now in a digital world include things like digital citizenship, media literacy, AI awareness and literacy, and overall kind of digital communication, all of which is included in our Beyond Typing curriculum in kind of one unified platform that many of you and your students are already familiar with using, but perhaps didn't realize are also offered along with the kind of fundamental keyboarding skills. Right, so let's see here. Before I jump to the next one, just going to take a quick look at the chat and see if we have any good ones. So couple responses here. Interested in new features, especially after transitioning from EduTyping. Great. Yeah, we'll get to some of those features that are there. Good for your school. Excited about the webinar. Appreciate the excitement, Tyler. hopefully we can deliver on that excitement. For the digital curriculum, awesome. That's what we'll go into. Media specialist, getting more bang for your buck on integrating digital citizenship. Absolutely. That's what we hope to cover. And interested in finding out more about Plus features. Perfect. Yeah, we will get to all of that. So appreciate you sharing that and taking the time to let us know why you're here. We hope to answer all of those. Cool. So diving into kind of expanding on that why, and before we get into the actual curriculum, just wanted to explain a little bit more about why these digital skills are so essential for student success, right? So one of the things is that we've already seen kind of legal mandates, right? So legislative mandates. These are, there are some specific ones. California has a specific bill where they mention media literacy. Washington State has a specific bill where they also mention it. There's also a lot of kind of curricula standards at states, and more we're seeing at the state level legislation that's actually dictating some form of digital citizenship, media literacy, computer literacy, and this stuff being built right into the curriculum and the standards that schools have to teach. So with that requirement, we wanted to make sure that we were offering that and making it really easy for schools to facilitate meeting that requirement, right? If it's a program that they're already using, saying, hey, our students know how to use typing.com, now they can, do this kind of self-paced curriculum where they're online and it's already there to not only learn these important skills for their future, but also to meet state mandates that are kind of requiring that. And then obviously, computer-based standardized testing is another big one. So all 50 states have moved to computer-based testing, some of which are almost 100% across the board. And there are kind of very few exceptions, right, for specific needs when paper and pencil have to be used. But by and large, all of the state testing, so we're talking about, CASP in California, ISAT, STAR testing, right, the standard kind of third grade and eighth grade testing in a lot of states, is all taking place on a computer. And it is really, there have been a number of studies, right, that have found students who can type more efficiently actually produce longer, higher quality written responses on computer-based exams, right? So we see direct correlation with ELA outcomes, right, with the writing outcomes on that standardized testing, as well as just in the classroom when they're having to produce this. Right. So it's that keyboarding fluency can really help reduce the cognitive load, right? So essentially, they're not having to think as much about what they're typing, about the keys, and not hunting and pecking for the keys, and can think more on what they actually want to say, what they actually want to write, because of not putting as much effort into the actual typing aspect. Also means that they can do it a lot quicker, less frustration, right? The last thing you want is a student who has amazing things to write not be able to write them or be too frustrated to write them because of running into obstacles with the keyboard itself. So we want less time spent thinking about typing and more time actually expressing their ideas, and that results in actual better test scores when it comes to ELA writing. Um, Another big thing is really just closing equity gaps. So this can be a challenge when teachers are teaching kind of digital fluency, because you don't always know what the starting point is for your students, and students are sometimes starting at different levels of digital literacy. Not all students have the same amount of exposure to computer, internet tools, and kind of keyboarding itself outside of school. So this offers a way to kind of close that gap by making sure that all students have access to learning these skills in a kind of structured way that builds one unit after another to help build those essential competencies that they'll need for the future and kind of close that gap, helping students achieve more. And then just more of a general statement, I think it's no surprise to folks that we are becoming more and more of a digital world. We're in an AI boom. We're all connected here on Zoom. So we know that technology has become a big piece. We know that things are moving more and more into the digital realm. And so just in general, preparing students for what's to come by building these, helping them build these kind of digital skills. Cool. With that, and again, before we dive into what the curriculum actually consists of, I'm going to turn things over to Molly, who's going to kind of go through some of the standards alignment and perhaps where you guys can actually find how the curriculum aligns to your own standards. So let me stop my sharing here,
Oh yeah,
and
here.
Molly, I will let you do your own.
Let's see. All right. All right. How are we looking? Can you guys see it? Okay, great. All right. Hey everyone. As Sean said, I am the curriculum director here at typing.com, and I am also a former teacher. So, as a former teacher, I know that it is extremely important to have curriculum that is aligned with your state standards. So, this is our standards alignment page. We have this nice little interactive map now. So, depending on where you are, if your state follows Common Core standards, if you're in California like I am, we follow Common Core. And so, if you were to click on this, it would show you the Common Core state standards. You can choose the state here, you can choose different grade levels, and you can see where, if you drop down these guys, where in our curriculum all those standards are met. You also can check out the ISTE standards if you don't have text standards already integrated into your state-specific ones. So if we were to go back to the map and choose, let's see, or from the drop down, choose a state like, let's choose Texas because we know they have their Texas Teaks. Oh, we don't have this one integrated into our interactive ones yet. So that's a good example. Some of these will not be integrated into our drop downs yet. We're still working on a few states. But here we go, New York. So if you're in New York, you can click through the drop downs and you can see the state specific standards, and they have their text standards embedded in their state specific standards. Um, so that's super helpful when you are deciding what parts of the curriculum you're looking for to meet those individual standards. And if you have any other questions, I won't dwell on this too long, but if you have any other questions about standards, please drop them into the chat so that we can talk through any other things you guys might be wondering about standards.
Emily, before you,
Oh no, I'll
almost
share
got there.
again. I'll share again. Here, I got it. There we
Yeah,
go.
it was just I just wanted to clarify one thing on there. So what you're seeing on the screen, the little green boxes there, right? Those are specific lessons in the sections of our curriculum, right? So it's saying you see like, K1 DL1, the specific standard that needs to be met, and then you can see the exact lesson that we have in our curriculum that matches that. So that's kind of what it is, right? It's not just a list of things that the standard should include. It's showing, hey, here's the exact lesson in this curriculum that matches this standard, which can help you really understand the correlation there. And we've seen teachers say like, oh, this is so important, I can bring this to my principal and explain like, this is why we're allowed to use so and so funding for this is why it's something that we actually need to do in order to deliver our curriculum.
You
And
also
Right,
Brent,
will
so
notice too, as I have this one popped up, any cross-curricular standards that we might meet. So you can see we have some ELA standards that are met here. So definitely interesting to check out and see where we might meet standards that are beyond just your typical technology standards.
and I was going to say that like Brent loves it when I do this, but one of the features we're working on is the ability for administrators or teachers to run reports based on the standards that their students have met. So that is coming up. It's on our roadmap this year.
you might love when I do this. Do we have a timeline on that?
Well, you'll have to ask Brent.
Ooh.
No,
So
I understand this is an important feature, and
It
it's
is.
it's really good to be able to report on how you are actually aligning to the standards. Like, what are your students typing that align to the standards that you need to meet? So it's on our list.
got it. Okay, I will jump back in. I think right before that, I do recall that there was maybe a question in the chat here. It looked like
I,
Marcy,
yeah, I
yeah,
think
someone
I
had
might have
asked,
tackled that one.
is the standards alignment can that only be seen with the plus features? I'm not sure if you mentioned that or not. Um, but we'll recap it again if you did. No, you can absolutely see the standards alignment without being upgraded to plus. I've got it up on the slide. It's just typing.com/standards brings you to that page that Molly was showing where you can put in your state and find them. So definitely available for everyone to see. Cool. This is just showing a little bit of, so rather than the image, Molly actually took you through it. So showing the example there. And then let's dive into the curricula, which is where we want to spend a little bit more time. So beyond typing, what do we mean by that? We're talking about digital citizenship, creative writing, coding, test prep, a bunch more. Specifically the sections here, and I'll turn it over to Molly in a second. She'll bring you through some actual things, but we're talking about digital citizenship and communication. This involves everything from media literacy, web searching safety, internet search tips, password protection, right? And I know Molly will bring you through a lot more of that. AI literacy, which we'll talk about, creative writing, computer applications, test prep, coding, college and career prep. There's a bunch more. Again, this is really trying to reinforce the idea that this is not just keyboarding. Keyboarding is absolutely important, right? The whole company, we're named typing.com. We don't want to detract from the importance of the keyboarding, but the added curricula with the Beyond Typing section really rounds out the kind of digital competencies that students need. So with that, I will turn it over to Molly again. We'll take you through some of the kind of differences of what's available in that curriculum in a few different example grades.
Yeah, here, let me share that one. All right. Yeah, and I also want to mention too that as Sean said, we are typing.com. So when you see all of these different lessons and think, oh, digital citizenship and test prep and all of that, we are still rooted in typing. So all of these lessons, while yes, they're learning about digital citizenship, they're doing it through typing practice. So definitely encourage you guys to dig into this curriculum page and look at it a bit more deeply, because you might be surprised at how we are able to teach these concepts while also having the kids learning to type. So I was just going to show you guys a couple of examples of what the Beyond Typing section looks like in a few different grades. So I'm going to pick. We'll do fourth grade over here. Oh, I'm in the standards. Hold on. Wait a second. No, here we are. Okay, here we are. All right. So in our fourth grade curriculum, you can see here's our Learn to Type section and then our Beyond Typing. So first up in all of our grade levels in Beyond Typing is digital citizenship. We span topics from assistive technology to emerging technology, to troubleshooting, and then dig into more digital citizenship topics like online behavior and password privacy. Our online behavior lesson, and we have a few different versions of this as the grade levels progress, but it's scenario based. So the kids are typing through a scenario, and then they're given a choice of what should they do next, and it'll lead them through kind of a story that also is teaching digital citizenship lessons. So that's pretty interesting. And then we will look at, so we also have some AI literacy lessons. Up here, we're working on expanding our AI literacy unit a bit. This is new, but it's different in our different grade bands. So we have lessons for 3 through 5, middle school, and then high school. And the lessons are all different depending on the age levels. Sean, do you want me to keep going through this, or did you want me to stop so you can talk more about AI literacy?
No, that's fine. I think you keep going through it and I'll kind of circle back when we wrap up the section.
Okay, great. Our creative writing section actually is a great opportunity for kids to practice some free response typing. So, as Sean mentioned, and I'll get into a little bit more in our test prep section, kids on standardized tests are expected to type free response answers. So, this is a great way for them to begin practicing that and sort of familiarize with it. And we also have some type your own adventure stories that are just fun in each of the grade levels.
Hey,
We
Molly,
also,
can
oh
you
yeah,
show the personalized practice there? I think that's such a cool feature that we
yes.
have in there.
Yes. So I'm not sure what the preview on this one will look like. Um, so this is actually very cool. This analyzes what keys students need additional practice with. So for me, since I'm just looking at this from a teacher's view, it's saying J and F because it hasn't analyzed my typing. But depending on how the students are typing and what they need more practice with, this will give them, it'll generate typing screens with words that focus on letters that they need more practice with. So that's pretty cool. A great way for kids to get that targeted practice in keys that they really need the help in.
Right. And that's going to be unique to each student, right? So it's not just creating that across the board. It's whatever keys that particular student is struggling with. It's creating,
Like
on the fly, generating text specific to that student to
like
help them practice
an
those.
adaptive curriculum, basically, in that
Yeah.
case.
Yeah.
And Brett, correct me if I'm wrong, not only is it unique to that student, but also unique to where they're at that moment, right? So those keys will change depending on what they need more practice with.
That is correct.
Great, perfect. Um, okay, so then we have our computer applications units. These are lessons about word processing, spreadsheet software, and presentation software, and also evaluating applications for efficiency or which works best depending on the task that they're doing. So lots of information here. Also, I didn't highlight this before, but you can kind of get an idea of how long each of these are going to take with our time estimates over here, and that is based on what speed the kids should be typing at that grade level. So that helps teachers, with planning and figuring out how long they're going to need on each lesson. And then I want to jump into test prep. This actually, this unit I wrote as the result of teachers asking for more practice with test prep and telling us that they were really anxious that their students were not prepared for digital standardized testing. So we responded by creating a test prep unit. We have test prep vocab, where they're typing through common test prep vocabulary words. We have reading comprehension section with reading passages, and then they respond to multiple choice questions. Those were sourced from standardized tests that have been used in the past. So really great practice for them. There's also some fill in the blank sort of Mad Lib style activities so they can scaffold into practicing generating their own content in one word, sort of sections before they're generating longer sections of content. And then down here we have some practice with short answer essay questions, and most importantly, probably timed response, because obviously on these standardized tests, their time is limited and they need to practice being able to plan what they're going to type and then go ahead and execute and type that. So that's a really great unit, super helpful for getting kids ready for testing season. And then finally, coding. And as I go into another grade level, I won't go as in depth, but I'll just sort of show you guys the difference. But you can see that our coding, we start coding in kindergarten with patterns and sequences. And then by fourth grade, they're learning about concepts like algorithms and conditionals, variables, loops, debugging. And we actually have some drag and drop coding blocks that they work with to create some of this. So Brent did a really nice job with creating our drag and drop code.
Maybe we can show one or two of those. Like I know the introduction to loops, I think has a really nice visual. Um, as Molly mentioned, a lot of this content, we're teaching great content and then using typing as the medium through which they learn that. And I'll dive into that a little bit more of that with kind of our custom lessons. But this is, I think, an amazing example, right, that shows the concept of loops, right, a coding concept needed in a very visual, easy to understand way that makes it grade appropriate, right, without just diving into like chunks of code. So an example of what we mean by going beyond just typing, but kind of showing, hey, here's how we build a digital competency that doesn't use strictly typing.
Yeah. And some of these lessons, will have more typing in them. That one, for example, was more click and drag. So sort of vary it up to keep kids interested. So quickly, I'm going to jump into I'm going to just show you guys what a higher level grade might look like. I'll go into ninth. Actually, I'm going to go into, I lied, I'm going to go into 10th because we have more career prep stuff in there. So if you look at 10th grade, we still have digital citizenship, but now the topics are a bit more advanced. They're focused on media literacy, ethics, things like that. We have a section to practice writing resumes. So just a bit more age appropriate there. We have different topics for our AI literacy units, things like citing AI resources and evaluating AI bias. Our creative writing unit, just different topics. Computer applications unit, you can see here just a bit more robust. And then our coding essentials, they are now doing HTML, CSS, and Java. So they're actually doing text-based code at this point. So we scaffold up to that. So by this time, they should be ready to handle that.
Yeah, and Molly, someone was actually asking in the chat, are the older kids able to get the beginning skills of coding as well? Can you just open up like let's do the CSS one?
Sure.
And I think so this kind of answers that question, right? So first it's going through, it's teaching some of the basics of how CSS and styling works, right? And then on the next screen, they're actually typing some of that. So we would say like, this isn't going to replace a full-on coding course, right? If you're offering, a high school level coding course, but they're absolutely learning the basics of it through typing. The other nice thing is that, as you can see on that screen, they start typing that code. So some students might be really, digesting that information and getting the fundamentals of coding. Even if they're not, what they end up doing is getting really, really good practice with typing some much more difficult keyboard combinations, right? So they're using characters with symbols and different letter and number combinations that they wouldn't typically get in a more narrative text that really just reinforces the typing stuff as well as giving those fundamentals for the coding.
Yeah. And we know as teachers, your time is limited. So your time with these students is not infinite. So if you're able to check multiple boxes while you're teaching typing, or if you don't have much time for typing, but you do have time for coding or digital citizenship or things like that, why not check two boxes at once? So hopefully that does that for some of you guys, or most of you. All right,
Awesome.
anything else before I stop sharing? Sean, do we have anything else in the, nope, not in the chat?
No, I think that's good. And that's actually a really good transition to the kind of custom lessons section. So let me reshare. I still want to circle back to our AI stuff a little bit, but I'm going to kind of skip that one and dive into custom lessons here. All right. So I guess before that, we're just showing where is that beyond typing section. So for anyone that's not familiar, that's been to typing.com or perhaps hasn't, when you're looking at the curriculum, you just scroll down, you'll see kind of the fundamentals at the top. And then on the left-hand side below that, you've got that beyond typing section. I'll jump back to this one, but Molly was already talking about the kind of two birds with one stone, right? So really making sure to use time wisely. That is where our custom, not only the cross-curricular stuff, right, and teaching typing through the digital citizenship and media literacy lessons can come in, but even more so, you can do custom lessons, right? And this is where you can create customized cross-curricular lessons to reinforce any content area that the students are also teaching, right? Or, sorry, that the students are also learning, being taught. So that might be, maybe it's second graders learning about mammals, or maybe it's, I don't know, ninth graders reading wholes, for example. Whatever that happens to be, you can create lessons that are taking perhaps vocabulary from the book or certain topics, certain sections, perhaps asking them reflective questions, like so-and-so did this at the end of chapter 4. Why do you think he did that? And could create different lessons like that. So you can create typing lessons that have, the short texts, the longer texts. You can create typing tests or written prompts that are going to be those kind of more open-ended prompts that you want students to respond to about any of the other topics. And it makes it a really, really great way to A, use time wisely, but B, to reinforce the ideas from other content areas through typing, using typing as the medium, right? So again, sometimes teachers say, hey, this is great, but like, we don't even have time to teach the content we already have. Where are we going to find time to fit typing in? Well, if you're able to reinforce ideas from your curriculum through typing, then it becomes a lot easier to find that time, right? Because you're essentially still teaching that content. And then this is stealing a little bit of Adrian's thunder. But because we're talking about custom lesson sharing, and I think Adrian will get to some of the other new features, but one of the new features that we do have is that you can actually share your custom lessons. So if you take the time to put that together and say, hey, like, we built this out, and I know that I've got 5 other teachers that use this, but they didn't, want to make their custom lessons with all of the great Gatsby texts in there. You can actually share those lessons with other teachers that are on your account, right? So we've made it quite easy for you to not have to duplicate those, but to actually share those and make them available to other teachers that are on your account. And okay, I did want to jump back. So on the AI stuff, we actually had a few questions come in prior to the webinar, leading up to this, that asked about, how we think about AI literacy. It's obviously a hot topic and could be controversial in some ways, or simply, people are a little bit worried, and want to make sure that it's done in a safe way more than anything. So our approach to AI literacy is it's grade by grade. So like a lot of the other topics, things are scaffolded, right? We don't throw out just, here's a bunch of AI tools, use them to a first grader. Instead, we are trying to teach future ready skills. We want them to start thinking critically about AI content and how to use these tools. And we want to do it interactively, right? So that they are engaged. So in the younger grades, this is just introducing what AI is, helping them introducing AI safety, and then having some very simple lessons just about privacy, ethics, and responsible use, right? And a lot of that's even, at the youngest ages, it's just like images, right? More so than long texts. By middle school, they're starting to build out their AI vocabulary, some critical thinking through different scenarios, and seeing kind of pros and cons and thinking about how this could be useful, but how it could perhaps be dangerous, as well as starting the kind of glimmers of information accuracy and recognizing biases. And then by high school, it's actually introducing kind of like real world AI applications, the ethical implications in that, and having them kind of analyze some essentially case studies to evaluate what are the biases in here, as well as how to properly cite that in different contexts, right? So it's really building up grade by grade, and we're going to be adding a lot more content in there. Obviously, the AI landscape is changing almost daily, and so we are trying to add more and more stuff to reflect those changes and new tools coming out in a kind of safe and scaffolded way.
Also, I just wanted to add in here too that those lessons, those AI lessons, were informed by state guidances. So now, because AI is becoming such a big topic, most states have their own guidances on what should be taught as in terms of AI learning. So I went through and looked at all of those and found what the most common topics were. So this isn't just, sort of a random AI, unit where we pulled all sorts of topics. It was very intentional and wanted to make sure that we were keeping those guidances in mind.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. So not only aligned to the standards in the state, but also our AI alignment is there as well. All right, we talked about these. Now let's jump into, so essentially that's the curriculum that's offered. That's the content, but how that content is delivered and the tools around that is what makes the platform actually usable and makes you able to deliver that content in a structured way to students. So I'm keeping an eye on time. I don't think we'll dive too far into all of these, but we did want to kind of highlight what some of the features are and maybe, dive into one or two of them in terms of differences in the platform for a Plus user and how they can be really useful in the classroom for classroom management. So I'll just kind of highlight here like what are some of the differences and some of the things that that a Plus user gets. Firstly, it's an ad-free experience. So we wish that we could just provide everything typing.com has to offer in an ad-free experience for everyone. Unfortunately, things do have costs. So if you're using our ad-supported platform, you will run into a few obstacles. With the Plus upgrade, it is completely ad-free. That can also be really important and sometimes make or break just for districts and schools that have specific rules around that type of privacy, right? So there might be restrictions that students are not simply not permitted to access any platform or website that has ads, in which case the Plus upgrade does comply with that. We also have the Beyond Typing content, which is what we just spent, the past 15 minutes kind of going over. The other stuff you're going to get, I kind of group it all into what I call classroom management tools. And it really makes the life of the teacher and administrators much, much, much easier. So things like advanced reporting and analytics. We don't have this overly complicated report builder where you have to pick all the different fields that you want to show up. Instead, we already have out of the box reports on kind of the key things that you're going to want to see. Improvement over time, student usage, right? How are they actually doing? Are they doing it? What are their activity levels? Right. So these reports are ready to go at both the student level and the school level for admins that need to see what the usage is through their schools. We also have kind of one-click rostering available when upgraded to Plus. So we have that through Clever Secure Sync as well as ClassLink. We have the assignments feature, which is another great one. So not only a lot of our curricula is very self-paced, right? The students kind of log in, they start at the top and work through it. With assignments, it gives teachers a lot more control to actually take a specific lesson, give it a due date, assign it, and that's what the students will have to complete first. And you can do that with custom lessons as well, which maybe I'm stealing a little more of Adrian's thunder for the assignment only lessons, which he'll perhaps get to in a second. Other things are you can monitor student participation in real time. So that's when actually in the classroom and you want to see, hey, what are students doing? Are they making progress through the lessons to make sure that they are on track, that someone isn't falling behind? And then kind of our custom auto grading thresholds, daily classroom goals, and individualized needs. And that's one that I am actually going to jump into on this next slide here. So this is a really big one, and we get questions on that. We had a few questions from some of you guys beforehand about really meeting students where they are and what kind of controls you have to adjust things to each particular student, right? So one thing that we covered earlier and Molly went over was the customized lesson for problem keys, right? That's just one of the methods that we have that helps you meet individual needs. Others are setting these benchmarks and the automatic grading. So the benchmarks that you can see on the right hand, that screen completion requirements, this is the minimum speed and the minimum accuracy needed by a student to progress from one screen to the other. You could, with a Plus upgrade, you can actually change that on a student by student basis as needed. So why is that important? Well, you might realize, and some teachers do this by taking a typing test at the beginning, you can assign that, is that you have, more or less most of your students are at a third grade level for their third grade curriculum. They're all typing at about the same speed with similar accuracies. And then you've got one outlier who is just, years ahead and types twice as fast as everyone else. And then perhaps one student who's struggling a little bit more, who needs a little bit more assistance. This is going to allow you to raise that minimum requirement of accuracy and speed for the more advanced student, lower it for the student that needs a little bit more help. That way they can continue to progress at their own pace, but knowing that the benchmarks that you're requiring are really at the level for that particular student. Right, so just one of the ways that you can adjust this on a student by student basis to make sure that you're really meeting students where they are at their level and not giving them something that's going to be impossible or also something that's way too easy for them. Couple others. So most of this we already went through. I don't know if there's anything in here. This is just kind of highlights from the Beyond Typing section, but to recap a bit, we went through the digital citizenship, we went through media literacy that includes all these items: web safety, password privacy, digital ethics, email rules, and etiquette, the AI literacy that we spoke about, the creative writing, test prep, and CTE. This should be giving you an idea of how much more they're getting than just the keyboard fundamentals. And we really want to reinforce that that is what this Beyond Typing section is. With that, I think we've got about 20, a little less than 20 minutes. I'm going to stop sharing, turn things over to Adrian, who's I think going to take us through just some of the newer features on the platform.
I think you're going to keep
And then
sharing.
I'll keep sharing. Okay, I'll keep sharing.
Yeah, let's just what I'll do is I'm going to keep this relatively short, and we'll just go to the TOC here. And I'll probably we can probably zoom through this. Let's just go slide by slide and go to the next one.
Perfect.
All right. We mentioned this a bit already, but we have AI lessons now. That's something that was implemented over the summer, and we will continue to grow these with an actual interactive component as well that's coming up that'll let them interact a bit with a very safeguarded AI. So we're really excited about that, but we already have obviously these AI lessons in there. You can proceed to the next slide, Sean. Thanks. And accessibility, I am super thrilled we have this in. We had a number of accessibility features, before, but we've added a couple really cool ones like left hand only or right hand only typing and the dyslexic font, and some other stuff as well, like the ability to turn on typing sounds and closed captions and all that good stuff. You can do this if you're on a plus plan. You can do this on an individual user basis. I believe as well. Actually, you know what? I think that's for free people as well. I think we made this entirely free, didn't we? So that's great news. This is entirely free. So that's fantastic. You can move to the next slide. And this was a heavily requested feature, basically a report that shows how your Plus licenses are being used. So you can very clearly see which of your students are covered by Plus licenses and who is not. Go to the next slide. And these are, I think Sean mentioned, custom lessons that are only used in assignments. So now you don't have to worry about your students seeing a custom lesson before you want them to see it. So sometimes they'll pop up in your students' custom lesson library before you'd like that. And this way you can just have them pop up only in the context of an assignment. Next. This was a fun feature as well. This is something that came from a teacher request. Basically, you can make it so that students cannot play games until they've met their daily typing goal. So you can see that restrict until goals are met, basically. So that if they try to play games before that, they'll be directed to meet their daily typing goal. This is a really fun sort of before and after report, if you will. So it'll show you how far your students have progressed over all time, basically, from the very first time they took a particular test, whether it's one of our built-in assessments or one of your custom typing tests. It'll show you how far they've progressed. So from, all their attempts or their most recent attempt, their improvement from the very beginning. Great baseline reporting tool. And is there anything else on this, Sean? Oh, archive classes. Well, we're past the start of the school year, so you may have already found this, but we were really incentivized to get this in for the start of the school year. A lot of you who've been with us for years, have a lot of classes. So this lets you archive them in a non-destructive manner, and you can bring them back at any time and dive into them. And if you need to recall little bits of information or what have you. But yeah, we now have an archive classes feature. Cool, yes. And also from the purposes of class planning, a lot of you needed curriculum time estimates. So Molly painstakingly went through every single lesson in all of our curricula and estimated based on that grade level's average words per minute how long it would take to complete every single lesson. So that if you need that, that's where you can find it. That's in the curriculum section of your teacher portal.
Cool. I think that's it. Just on that last one, I know we've spoken about it, and we do get that question a lot, right? Teachers are asking, hey, like, how long does this take? Either a particular lesson or just in general, the whole curriculum. And my answer is usually it depends. Some students are going to go through it faster and slower than others. When you give a little bit more context to that, we have our estimates, but really the idea is that students can go through it kind of at their own pace, at their own level, and that there's always enough content to keep them busy, as well as the games that they can play to reinforce the typing if they happen to finish early in any set 15 or 20-minute period. With that, we have made it to the end. We've still got about 15 minutes left for any questions, and hopefully we have the answers to them. So we did want to kind of open up the floor if there's any questions from any of you guys. I'm not sure if there's any in the actual Q&A or chat, but we'll kind of sit tight and stay on here to see if you have any questions. While you are perhaps typing those or thinking of any questions you might have, I'll just keep our next slide up, which is just kind of how you can reach out to us when all of this is over. We have our YouTube page. We put a lot of great content on there, things of how to use the platform. We have our What's New section. So whenever you log in to typing.com and just the first thing you see in your dashboard and scroll down is What's New. So you'll see some of that great stuff that Adrian just went over, as well as any of the new stuff that comes out after this. And then we also have Help Scout, which is for our kind of knowledge base and any support for support stuff, support at typing.com to reach out to the sales team for any inquiries, sales at typing.com. And we'll see if you have any questions.
I see one question, and I had to just scurry over to my teacher portal to make sure I could answer. And Brent, you're not going to like this when I share this because it has a bug on the screen. So brace yourself. But Sean, you can turn off your sharing.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay, hold on one second. Let me just jump right over. Sean, Brent, for your record, that there's that BR tag there. But somebody had asked if you can sort of print out certificates for what they've done. You can print out typing test certificates. So this will print out a certificate like that. I'm not sure if you wanted to print out sort of more lesson certificates, but that doesn't exist right now. Sean, you can go back to sharing your slide.
So I will have my cameo appearance here. Tyler, I was also looking into this question that you had, and I was surprised that we didn't have this either. There is a small workaround. It is not ideal. You can log in as the student, go to their page, and then on their page, you can see a print certificate if you log in as them. That is the workaround. But Adrian, we should get that added as a feature.
I was thinking the same thing, and what's really interesting is one feature we did add in the off season, if you will, is actually I think we might have added it at the very beginning of the school year, is your ability to print out a lot of their achievements. So you have certificates you can print out for, I have a feeling that's something to do with maybe this demo account, but Brent, you might
Mm.
want to look into that. In any case, you can print out their achievement certificates, but I think we do want to add a feature like what Tyler suggested there.
Yeah, you can't do that on the demo account.
No.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up, the achievements. I was going to say, I was just going over this with another teacher who wanted to know about certificates and was able to find those. So the achievements are another good one there. Looking at other ones here.
Sean, I see a question from Mary at the end, which I can definitely take and answer. She's asking, do we have recommendations for typing practice with digital literacy? Which comes first, the chicken or the egg? So that's a really good question because obviously kids need some digital literacy skills before they're able to access a typing program. So the way that we've arranged the curriculum is that when kids start using typing.com, they're introduced to the parts of a computer, what makes a computer run. They familiarize with a keyboard. So those digital literacy skills are taught first. Then they get into typing, learning about the actual keys and becoming a bit more proficient. And by the time they're a little bit more proficient and can actually type more words more efficiently, that's when we go into our digital citizenship units. So that's sort of why it's scaffolded that way. But we did include pre-keyboarding lessons that Sean's showing you right here so that kids do have an understanding of the parts of a computer and how they work and all of that. So if you choose to follow our units sequentially like we would suggest, then that's sort of how that'll work. If you were to jump ahead and go right into our digital citizenship units first, you would likely find that it's a bit challenging for your students because they haven't completed the other units prior that's teaching proper keyboarding skills. So
Yeah, that's a really good point, a really good question. And it's making me think, we should have included that when we do this webinar again. We really wanted to focus on the beyond typing section, which is what a lot of our users are unfamiliar with if they've only used the kind of learn to type. But as Molly said, they really start, it kind of goes top to bottom. So they have that pre-keyboarding and will learn those fundamentals before going into the kind of deeper digital competencies.
So I noticed
Cool.
that Charles asked where he can find the recording. And so we do obviously record all these and they go on the typing.com YouTube channel. And I make a habit of sending out an email after this that contains a link to that video. So Charles and anyone else who's interested, you'll see this whole thing there.
Cool. Okay, I was seeing one here, have an open screen added, where students are able to type text into more of an open screen, helpful for the customized typing tests given. So yeah, I'm not sure if this just asking as like a word processor, but I think, and Kiva, feel free to let me know if this doesn't quite cover the question. I think the closest thing here is kind of the written prompts that we have, right? And using a custom lesson with a written prompt where you're just putting the prompt for whatever you'd like them to write about, right? So that could be, 300 words on what you did over the weekend, or, could be specific to content in another area, as we spoke about, right? Maybe it's about, a book they're reading in another class, or just, we have some teachers who use this as like an exit survey, and they just want to know, have students kind of write like a short 3-sentence response before leaving for the day, and they all kind of submit that, and it's just, how did your day go? Something simple like that. So hopefully that answers and does allow you to, they don't have to type what's on the screen. They're responding to the question of the prompt on the screen, and it's more open. And with those, you can set, I think it's 2 restrictions or both. So you can put either a time limit, a number of words, or both if you want them to basically have to write a number of words within a specific time limit, right? So you could say you're setting that lesson to be 500 word minimum, or to write for 10 minutes and they just write what they write, or both. Cool.
A couple other
Don't see.
questions there from Tyler Clint. So one question, should I send this as homework instead of time in the classroom? Um, Molly, do you want to take that? I know like a lot of our teachers do both. Obviously, the time in the classroom is important so that you can observe what they're actually
Yeah.
doing, their hand position on the keyboard. But sometimes for more extensive work, they do that at home.
I mean, I think that's a lot of personal preference. The only thing that I would caution is that if you are sending this as kids to do at home, they may type significantly longer and they may get through a lot of the curriculum much more quickly. And you're not really as able to regulate that. Whereas when they're in class, you're sort of setting that. So especially if they're doing it at home and at school, you may just find that they get through it more quickly. The curriculum was designed to last the length of the school year. So if you're practicing, 15 minutes a day, a couple times a week. So just keep that in mind that you may have kids that get through things a bit more quickly.
Coincidentally, Tyler also asked, how do I help my students if their typing speed stays the same? And that's where I would suggest NitroType. I also work on NitroType, and where typing.com is designed to teach them proper typing methods, if you will, in terms of finger position. What really accelerates their sort of skill development is NitroType. It's that sort of competitive typing practice car racing game, very classroom friendly. And students love it, and they'll just go crazy on that, practicing their typing. So that's the practice product. There isn't a curriculum component to it necessarily. It's more about just, repetitive practice that they enjoy.
Yeah. And also the
Um,
personalized practice within the curriculum too. Make sure that they're doing that because that also will help if there is a key that they're much slower when they're typing, and they need targeted practice with that key or a couple of keys, then make sure that you're having them complete those personalized practice lessons
Yeah,
to
the
get.
great thing about if you have Plus with the personalized practice is you have got a variety of different stories that are all AI generated, so they're different almost every time. So like Molly said, there's like a lot of runway there for them to do that sort of adaptive
right.
curriculum.
And as well as kind of a choose your own adventure, right? It's kind of giving different pathways that they can go down. I was going to add in, so along with assignments and assigning things as homework or in the classroom, and then we talked about games. So one of the other things we didn't mention is the classroom management aspect of that. So with Plus, you can also set what you want the daily goal to be, and so this is where it comes into play. Part of Molly's answer might be, well, it depends on how much time you in the classroom you have, right? If you have them only for 5 or 10 minutes a day, you might end up saying, hey, like this would be great for you to practice more at home. If you've got them for a half an hour, you might set a daily goal of 10 minutes or 15 minutes and say, hey, these first 15 minutes, what that's going to force them to do if you restrict games is to say, A, you're going to meet your goal, and B, you're going to have to go through that curriculum and meet your goal before you can just switch things over to the games to practice, as Adrian said, right? NitroType is a great one. We've got other games that are specifically accessible through the platform only. So a variety of others.
I
My
would say
favorite is
like Keyboard Ninja and Keyboard
I
Jump.
was just gonna say my favorite is Keyboard Ninja. Anyone who's done Fruit Ninja, they haven't sent us any lawsuits or anything, but it's
Not
very
yet.
similar to that. And then Nitro Type, not only fun for the students, but we've had a few teachers that actually get involved in jump into races too, so the students can see that. It makes it really fun for them to want to compete and do that. So
And I
great
should
way
say,
to.
NitroType has its own teacher portal that gives you a lot of great reporting as well, so you can keep track of how they're doing over there.
Right. Yeah, we do get this question sometimes. So NitroType has its own upgraded version as well. And with that, you could actually wall things off to keep the racers to only be the district or the school, for example. Otherwise, students are racing against folks from all over the world, which is a really fun aspect of it, actually, right? Because they're in real time against other real racers. So both good ways. I'm looking at time. I don't know if we have any other questions. I see the chat. There's no more there. I don't think there are any in the actual Q&A.
Well,
Oh, I just see one more.
should I replace my morning math / starters with typing.com instead?
Well, you're asking the typing.com team.
Yeah,
So from us, it's
a
a
little biased.
strong yes, absolutely.
Funny. I think that's it, though.
Bit of a biased answer. I won't detract and say that a math starter isn't also a great way to get going. But I think that,
We'll fix it up.
more importantly than replacing one with the other is just consistency, right? So wherever it is, whether it's replacing it as your morning starter or finding it after lunch break, it's just finding time to do it consistently. So instead of saying, hey, once every 3 weeks, I just have them do typing.com for a couple hours, is not going to be nearly as useful as saying, hey, we found a way to do it, 10 minutes Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for them to just kind of consistently work through it. And that's what's really going to be the most useful, whether it's replacing a math starter or not.
And one last question from Marcy, and then we do have to shut it down.
Sure. How much is it to upgrade to Plus? This is our favorite question to get. We love hearing this. The answer is it depends. What I would say is please do reach out to sales@typing.com. Our pricing is fairly transparent, but it depends on kind of the number of students that you have and how large your school or district is. So
Because it goes
just shoot a quick.
down if you're larger. Is that why, Sean?
That's right. Yeah, yeah. It is volume-based pricing that reduces the price at larger volume. So the more students you add, the cheaper it becomes. Just shoot a quick email over to sales@typing.com and let them know, where your school is and how many students you're looking for, and we can send out a quote. We don't hide that. You just need to know kind of how many students are
Can
involved.
you put those, go back to the slide deck and put the
Yeah, let
email
me
addresses up there again?
let's do that.
Other tab.
Let's make sure I got this one up and the right one.
Perfect. Yeah. So, I mean, this is how to keep in touch with us. Obviously, as Sean said, sales@typing for sales related inquiries, support@typing for any outstanding questions you have. We also have Help Scout, fantastic tool. It's in the teacher portal. Sometimes it's maybe hard to find. You could click on that if you wanted, but well, before you do that, we have the What's New stuff that's the page within the teacher portal. I think it's also linked to on the main typing.com site, and that'll tell you when we change stuff, when we add things, when we fix bugs. Not that we have any of those, right, Brent? And then the YouTube channel, which that's got all our help videos, including these webinars. So there's a lot of material all around. Sean, do you mind just clicking that Help Scout? I wonder if that's a digestible URL for people. Typing.com.helpscoutdocs, not exactly the friendliest URL. We could work on that, but that is where you can go to get a lot of targeted how-to articles.
I think an easier one, you can go to
Support.
typing.com/support,
That's better.
which is a bit easier to find. And then that has links both to kind of takes you over to YouTube for our overview video, and you can type directly in here or click to the knowledge base, which takes you there. So probably easier to digest, typing.com/support for
Awesome.
support needs and that knowledge base. Cool. With that, let's wrap it up. Thanks everyone for attending. We will send out follow-up emails with a link to the recording, as well as perhaps information on the next webinar when that's going to be. And we hope to see you there.
Great. Thanks everyone for coming.